Welcome to Envision Radio from the United Way of Greater Charlottesville and City of Promise and News Radio 98.9, 1070 AM, WINA Radio. And brought to you by the Jefferson School Foundation with Marky and Price coming to you from the studio downtown in Charlottesville. And today is a beautiful day. The weather is great. It's 90, or I don't even know what it's going to be today. But today I'm thrilled to be joined by Lisa Harris.
We just lie on the radio. Just like,
I'm not going to lie, you can't, because there's no regulations.
We just say whatever you want. Yeah. It snowed today. Someone fact check me.
It is summertime. Yes.
Yeah, there are not enough rules for us to be doing this.
No. Today we're thrilled to be joined by Lisa Harris, a leadership development and cultural change agent with more than 20 years of experience in academic, health systems, automotive, HR, marketing, and financial services. That came right from the bio. She's done everything. We have a savant, the jack of all trades in the studio today.
Wait a minute.
So Lisa, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I think we say this every time, but the one we've done 160, 170 of these, something like that, right? This is like the longest running gag I think in Charlottesville. The thing that was never supposed to be a thing.
We weren't supposed to be here.
This was just
Congratulations.
I mean, honestly, it was like what can keep Price busy during paternity leave. It's like turned into a thing. But as we go through kind of the pantheon of all the people we talk to, and it's a really cool smattering of people. I think we've only asked the same question once. We do all this prep and we do all this stuff, and people come in all types. There's some people that are really comfortable, some people that are not, some people that need things vetted, some people that don't. So Marky does a really good job of like the prep work, and I do some prep work and and then about 6 minutes into every episode, it's not worth anything because we've already taken a left into something else, and we're totally off the rails. But the one thing we do ask everyone is tell us a little bit about yourself, and we usually start chronologically, right? So let's go back. Young Lisa, let's start as close to the beginning as you would like, and then we'll work our way towards today, and then see where we go.
Okay. Well, let's see. Young Lisa started off with having a passion for helping people. I used to watch the Jerry Lewis do the muscular dystrophy program every year. It was a fundraiser on television.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Sure.
He was like, "Hey, if you give money, we can cure muscular dystrophy."
Oh wow!
And so I thought, okay, so like about age 8, after watching it for years, I said, "Mom, Dad, can we do something to raise money for muscular dystrophy?"
Yeah.
They were like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's have a carnival in our backyard."
Oh, I love it.
Really?
So we came up with games. My parents surprised me and found someone, bought a little pony so you could do pony rides. We had all of this stuff going on in the backyard, and I don't even remember how much money we raised, but it probably like a little bit over $100. And then my parents were nice enough to add a little more to it, and then we sent it off to Muscular Dystrophy, and they sent a note and said, thank you for your contributions. And I was all excited because I thought, oh wow, so this is how we cure something. And even today, the fact that they're still working on it, but that was kind of how I started my journey in doing all this. Is I wanted to figure out, kind of like my parents, how do I figure out how to help people and maybe have a little fun along the way? And that's kind of how I started my journey. And then my parents and I moved. At this stage, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school, which was a very unique experience.
That sounds unique.
Yeah, for sure.
Learned a lot about leadership in that environment and some diversity, equity, inclusion, and learned a lot about being the power of women. Just being in school with just us, no one competing against looks or attract. Who's cuter, because there's no guys in the space. So it really was about leadership and growth. So it was a lot of fun. And then moved from there and went to Hampton for my undergraduate
Hampton
year.
U?
Hampton U.
Okay, shout out to Hampton U.
There you go.
I like to put them against each other in the other HU, the real HU in the building.
You're gonna get a whole lot of kickback on that.
I like to put y'all against each other. I don't know I didn't go to either, so I just like to cause trouble.
That's wild.
And then I started my career. So it's been a wonderful journey. It's been an educational journey, and I just have loved what I've done over the years.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Okay.
I love to share with everyone, I grew up in a 4-family house. my grandmother lived downstairs, my cousin lived on the other side, my godparents lived on the other side. So it was like our own little
multi-generational.
Multi-generational.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Why
fun.
Hampton? You from New
I was
Jersey?
just about to ask.
Like, what made you come down? Yeah.
Well, interesting enough, my father went to Delaware State, so
Okay.
he said you're going to go to historically black college.
Okay, so you
okay.
you was planning to go to the HBCU the whole time.
The
Okay.
whole time. And then we did the tour.
Yeah.
And we got on Hampton's campus, and I looked around, and I was like, wow, this is really quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Love the academics, love everything else. And the other thing was, I saw some beautiful African-American men on that campus. And after going
On
to
your visit?
Right, on the visit. And after going to all-girl Catholic high school, I was like,
Yes.
this works.
I tell you what.
You know what? I
it
can
is.
see how that could be. I could go from a Catholic school to that and be like, you know what? This might be a good place to be.
It is funny to think about the things that we talk about as adults about like higher education, right? And like, oh, kids are prioritizing like where they want to be and what. I was like, have you ever talked to a 17-year-old before?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if it was about the education for
right?
me.
Like, are you sure that you are really coding for what you think they're coding for? I mean, two things can be true, but
Yes.
right? It's like they're not interpreting the prestige in the same way that you are. They're like, oh, Jamie's dining hall is elite.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
enough.
Yes.
That is enough.
That's enough.
What'd you end up majoring in there?
Broadcast communications and print journalism with a minor in marketing.
What did you want to do? Like, what was your dream job coming out of that?
My dream job was I wanted to do the news.
Ooh,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
Hoda and them.
Yes, I wanted to do like Hoda in there. Yes, I did.
And what did that look like? What did that look like? What was the path to that, right? Because, I mean, we're obviously in a much different
Yeah.
media era now. I mean, were there paths to that then that were as open? I mean, clearly not as democratized as they were now. And I think they're sort of like the Oprah story,
Yeah.
right? Which is sort of the prevailing news story, right?
Yeah.
Which I would assume is an outlier.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
No, I agree with you.
given even her early days, right? In the way that she was like, went to Chicago and built her own studio. I mean, there's a lot of that was kind of by hook or by crook. But was that, I mean, were there people who you were looking at like, oh, like that? Right? Like who were the exemplars of like, okay, cool, here's the steps I would take to end up on TV?
Yeah. For me, since I lived in New Jersey, there was always the people on New York News who were the people
Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, because I'm right across the
Yeah,
bridge
yeah,
and
yeah.
the tunnel to get to them, and thought they were all phenomenal. But interestingly enough, I started investigating how much money you make when you first start off.
Yeah.
And I remember my father giving me this speech: you got 4 years to graduate,
Yeah.
and then when you graduate, you have to go somewhere.
That's right.
And go do something to live your life.
Right.
And then I looked at that salary and I thought, no, that would take me back home.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's
And
right.
I didn't want to do that because that's not kind of what I was told to do. And so I actually leaned more into my marketing background and started interviewing at the placement office for roles,
Okay.
which again also wasn't available at the school to like just interview to go work at ABC.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
was going to take a whole different level
Yeah.
of connections
That's
and,
right.
and people. So I thought, okay, I have a marketing degree as well. I'm just going to go in that placement office and see if I can compete with the business students to find a job. And then I ended up having an interview with Ford Motor Company, and I had to go through an assessment center. And once I got through the assessment center, they made me an offer. So that's how I ended up on that path. I said somewhere along the line, I'm going to figure out how to bring in my media and broadcast background in here.
Okay.
But that was my path.
And was that Ford, were you doing Ford in Jersey or did you go to Detroit?
I actually went to Detroit.
Did you?
My first assignment. I moved from New Jersey to Detroit, Michigan. I worked as a customer service agent. When you just get started, that's what you do.
Yeah.
In the original Ford building.
Oh, my goodness.
Luckily enough, before they knocked it down with the
Right.
staircase and everything. And once you leave your original assignment, I got sent off to a region. So I got sent to Memphis, Tennessee.
Hold on.
So
Okay.
the Jersey girl went to
I was about to
Memphis.
say you went Jersey, Virginia, Detroit, Memphis. That's like
Me-
going to 4 different countries.
Yes, and then Memphis to Atlanta.
Okay.
Atlanta to New Jersey again, but South Jersey.
Yeah.
South Jersey.
Those are close for different reasons. What took you all off to these different places, right? And I mean, I guess as you go to these places, I mean, talk about sort of as you're growing up in sort of these very different kind of cultural epicenters. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Detroit, but especially in that era was much, much different.
Yeah.
So you're going all girls Catholic high school, HBCU, then sort of like middle America, hyper industrial. I mean, what is all of that like as you're putting the pieces together?
Yeah, I consider it to be really wonderful because I always said in my journal, I said, hey, God, whatever I do, I want you to take me everywhere. I want to see everything. I want to be exposed so that I can talk intelligently and not just talk about people or things, but have some knowledge. Have been there, yeah. And so for me, that was what it was like. I looked at it as an adventure.
Yeah.
And my parents grew up in Elizabeth, and they never left Elizabeth. Which is also wonderful because that's community for them, right? But for their daughter, it was, where can I go? And what can I see? And who can I meet? And just to have a different experience. And I actually relocated 9 times working for Ford. Wow. So it was, yeah.
What was a lesson that you learned through this process of those 9 locations early in your career? What did it teach you moving forward when you were ready for the next thing and the next thing? And like, what's the main thing that you got out of those years of being in the grind, being region to region, doing the work?
I think the thing I would say is I think I built up my courage because you take a Jersey girl and you send her to Memphis and she travels Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. And people remind her after she went to a HBCU that she's actually black. Yeah. And from New Jersey and female, and having to have some really difficult conversations and to be able to compete with my peers who did not have all of this as their background. So I would say courage was one of the things, and a sense of curiosity and adventure. Yeah.
You got to have that if you move 9 times.
Yes. And I have to say one more thing, and really having faith. I applaud my parents for grounding me in faith, because to travel and be in spaces and places where you're welcomed and then not welcomed, you had to really lean into your faith to say, I can walk into this space and I can do this, even if you don't want me in this space.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Do you like to travel globally, or is it just in the States?
I'm heading to Greece in a couple of weeks.
Okay, all right.
Greece in summertime, like.
Yeah. Wow.
I love global travel. I've been to Asia. I think we all just need to get out. It does so much for our sense of wonder and appreciation for other people.
That's very true.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your travel bug?
So I'm going on a historical tour. Charlottesville, the Equity Center, wrong name. It's going.
The Deep South Door.
Yeah. Yes. So they're going on a 7-day trip to 14 cities. I don't know. I feel like it's more than the 7. And we're going to fly out. We're going to go to all these places, and we're going to stop into like all the historical Black spaces in these places. To learn more, but also how we carry that information into the future to be better stewards to those who have come before us, to continue the work. And so I'm super excited to be in the cohort this year. And so those are my travel plans. I haven't only been out of the country once. To the Dominican Republic, Dominicana. I had a great time. I think I need to be a traveling girl, but I just don't think I can travel across the Atlantic. That's a lot, but I really want to be more traveled than I am.
That's a lot.
You're going to love the Deep South tour. Oh. Yeah, it's
Have you been on it before?
I went last year.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. You'll love it.
I hope it's enough. Like, I'm worried that I'll like get to a place and like want to spend more time there. Yeah. But like, we got to go to the next city, and the next city, and the next. So I feel like it's going to be jarring, but jarring in the way that like it's historically relevant to the journey you're taking.
Yes, absolutely. So you'll love it. Yeah, you'll love it.
What about you, Price? You traveling this year?
This year, no. I'd spent the majority of my early 20s in and out of the country.
Right.
For sports-related things. I've been all over the U.S. I'm in that place, which I think is interesting. I like to travel, but now in an era with 2 kids, traveling's just hard. Okay. So we'll go to Lake Anna. Right, like we're gonna keep it tight for a couple years. And having done a bunch of traveling in my 20s, I mean, it's just like I feel, I think, what your parents felt, that was like having left and come back. Like I'm good building the thing here. Yeah. Like I don't have the same amount of wanderlust I had younger, probably because I don't have other energy and stuff to do. And I wonder if that will come back, because right now I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah. Like I'm good. I went to London for a couple days, a couple months ago or whatever. Yeah. So like stuff like that's fun, right? But the amount of energy to just like, and I've done Greece and Santorini and all that, and it's lovely. But again, in a season of life that I can enjoy it. Yeah. I'm like, why would I go?
I need to get
somewhere
going
just
then.
to, well,
I'm in a
like,
season of life
but
I can enjoy.
My thing is, I'm
Then
like,
go.
why would I go
I need to
somewhere
get on a plane
just to
I'm
lie
leaving
down?
here and get to the Charlottesville airport.
Well, you can't get far
Say,
from there, but
That's right. You're going to have to fly to DC.
go to a bigger airport.
This is a personal jet.
But yeah, that's right. But that kind of, I'm like, I'm gonna go somewhere just to like lie down in a different view. That's what I want to do this year. It's just like lie down for a second. So let me get back to that.
That's awesome.
But no, I mean, I think it is true though, and I share your sort of recommendation of like, if you can, do it, right, and just go to weird places and see stuff and try stuff and eat weird things and yeah.
And so back to the nine locations. How did you get into being a professor after being at Ford?
Yeah. This is interesting. My dad always told me I should go into education, but I was like, oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Well, what was your reservation?
I was going to say, what were your parents? What did they do?
My father was in
There
education.
you go.
okay.
It's usually the teachers that are like, you know what that is? Because it's misery loves company. They're like, you know
That's
what? You do it too.
Please.
Yeah, right.
And my mom didn't go to college. And so it was one of the things that's really important to her. And she also wanted me to get out and travel. So I got into education because unfortunately my dad passed away. And that's when I went back home to be with my mom. And I said, I need to do something, and I would love to give back. So I applied for an adjunct position at Keene and got the job and started teaching graduate students leadership and ethics. And so that's how I walked into space and laughed every day that my father was somewhere probably thinking,
I told you so.
Right. It's true.
So did you enjoy doing? Like you said, you didn't want to do it, but when you got into it,
Absolutely
did you
loved
find
it.
joy in it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
loved
good.
it.
And what is something that you learn from your students? You go out and you laugh every day. What is like one thing that you took from them that impacts you in a way to move forward in your career?
The power of change. Just to accept that nothing is going to be the same. And that you have to be willing to show up as your true, authentic self.
Because the kids know? Do the
Because
kids
they know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can they
know.
tell when you putting on the facade in the class?
Yeah. And even adults know. It's like you're really having sometimes a conversation with the child in them. And if you recognize that, then it makes it easier because the child in you shows up as well. So it was, how do we get through this? Because we're both learning. I have always believed that a teacher should be a learner. And so that's how I've entered that space. And that's why I enjoy the space, because I feel like I'm learning too.
We should make sure
Go ahead,
we
do
do our... If you're just hopping in, this is Envision Radio from the United Way of Greater Charlottesville and City of Promise News Radio 98.9, 1070 AM WINA. Price, Markey, Lisa Harris here in the studio in Charlottesville. And again, big thanks to our sponsor and friend, the Jefferson School Foundation, the proud owner of the Jefferson School City Center, where education, innovation, and community engagement come together to build a brighter future. All right, cool. So you're teaching now.
Yeah.
You got your sort of okay, I made it. So you do it, you enjoy it, but for you, did you see it becoming a thing, or were you kind of like, all right, like, because it seems like an era-specific thing. Teachers don't teach for a very long time now, right? I think it's still, my parents were 40-year public school teachers, right? Like that was a thing. Did you feel like that you had found it, or was it kind of, because it seems like your path is kind of like, I do a thing, and then I go to a different thing, and I go to a different place, and I go have a different experience, and they're not disjointed. They all fit together, but it doesn't seem like there's grass growing under your feet, right? So when you do this, are you like, oh, this could be like a thing, or is it kind of like, all right, cool, I did my teaching, I'll give it 3 years, and then I'll bounce out into the next thing?
That's really a great question. I was actually teaching while I was actually working for American Express. So I was doing both.
Night and day life.
There you go. Yeah,
And that's pretty much it was, night and day life.
Yeah.
And I thought I'll stay in it until such time that I don't. And I figured I would just enjoy it. And until I came here and discovered that you cannot teach graduates or undergraduates unless you have a doctoral degree.
Yeah.
Which is,
I don't know.
Lord.
UVA, it's you
a-
can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I would say I stopped teaching, but I just pivot And when I started my own business, I started teaching adults and businesses and corporations and the government.
Yeah.
So I still will do that for people now. So
Sure.
I feel like the grass still kind of grows, but I just kind of level it off a little bit and just jump back on in.
Talk a little bit about your business, L.A. Harris, Dare to Bear Fruit.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. And the name is amazing. Tell me why you chose the name.
The whole concept is kind of like the fruits of the spirit, right? And how do you help people grow personally first? Because I think we don't become better until we really spend a little more time on us. So it's like, how do I get you to grow? So that's part of that coaching part of the business. And then how do I get you to think of yourself as a leader, no matter what your title is? And then how does that show up in the space in which you lead?
Okay.
And so to me, all of that is bearing fruit. It's your own personal fruit. And then it's the fruit that you give to others as a leader.
Yes.
And then it's the fruit that your whole collective team actually has together. So, and I really believe God gave me that because it's one of my favorite Bible passages around bearing fruit.
what's the
John
Bible?
5:15, I believe it is.
Look it up, Price. Get on your computer.
And hopefully I got it right because that would be bad if I didn't.
I'm not good at my iPad got the questions on it, but I can't.
You're not reading the questions anyway.
I am. Yeah, what is the Bible? What is it, John? What?
I think it's John 5:15.
John 5:15.
So hopefully I got it right. So
If
please
it's not,
don't
we'll go
take
to
me
the next
wrong.
one. Read it again. What is it?
John 5:15 says, "The man went away and told the Jewish leaders it was Jesus who made him well."
Okay, that's not right. type in bear.
John
Bear
Bear
fruit.
Okay,
Bear
all right,
fruit.
that's all right.
Okay,
Let's
forgive
see.
me out there.
Yeah,
Bible
Bible
class.
people.
Religious scholars are furious.
I love a good religious scholar.
All right,
That's
here we
not my
go.
area of expertise.
Here we go. Looks like John 15.
Oh, okay,
I got
okay,
it
one
reversed. Okay, that's
There you
all.
go. Yes.
What is it?
I'm the true vine and the Father is a gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes. Yes. So it will be more fruitful.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're there.
Yeah.
You're there.
What did you want to be an entrepreneur? So, like, was it always the goal to be an entrepreneur and start your business, or how did that come about?
Yeah, actually, I think it came about because at some point, I left American Express because my mom got ill.
Okay.
And what I discovered is you can't really run a whole team from a hospital room all the
Right.
time. You have to be. So I thought, in order to make sure I'm caring for my mom, I need flexibility because I never know whether we're in the hospital or going. So I just started the business for that reason and loved it because, again, it gave me a chance to go to different places, learn different things, and have different experiences with different clients. And so that's how that came about.
How did you get back to Charlottesville? Or how did you get to Charlottesville? You were in Hampton. How did you get to Charlottesville?
I got here because when my mom passed away, I said to God in my prayer, I said, I need you to send me someplace that's a little further away from home because unfortunately I was spending a little too much time at the cemetery. And so I said, wherever you send me, I'm open to it. And so I just applied for several jobs and UVA happened to be one of them. And I thought, oh, what a good blend. I get to be at an academic institution. I get to get a little closer. I have some family that are in the area. And so I applied for the job, came back, they offered the job, and I'm like, I'm out of here, people. I'm getting ready to go hang out at UVA and do some teaching.
Wow.
How long have you been here?
I've been here 7 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're relatively new.
Yeah.
Once you get to 10, you tell people you're from Charlottesville.
Is that what it is?
Is that what happens?
Is it the 10-year mark?
I'm not just be making it up. I made that up. I don't know.
That's a pretty good line of demarcation. I think.
Yeah, I feel like
figured out what
that's a decade of time.
Yes.
what everyone's
Yes.
photos order.
I've been
is
here
and
for,
everything.
not me, I've been here the whole time, but I've been here for a decade that I've been here.
You've been here for a decade that you've been here.
I
Okay.
like that.
All right.
You done seen a lot of things that a lot of people ain't never seen.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
That's a
That
good
is
point.
true.
Like the mall. Was the mall here when you...
Oh my gosh.
See, it depends. If you was here when the mall was here, I
There
think you
go.
was civilian.
That's your entry card. If you've ever aimlessly
grew up at
walked
the
around
mall.
Fashion Square Mall, yeah.
Yeah.
We talking about the downtown mall or Fashion Square Mall?
Fashion Square.
Yeah,
The Fashion
that's
Square.
right.
May she rest.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
just transformed into it's like a Home Depot now.
Please.
Some
And
other
a belt
stuff.
is you get two things.
Yeah.
Choose
The-
from.
at least the
Belts
belt
and-
made it.
That,
You miss J.C. Penney,
Yes.
Sears,
sure.
Oh my
all those
goodness.
stores
It's
inside,
just,
Bath
it's
and
just
Body Works.
crazy. They just kicked all of our stuff out.
just need the Auntie Anne's back.
Yes, Auntie Anne's. It didn't move, did
the
it?
pretzel place.
It did. I thought it did. It move?
I don't know. I haven't been in there in a long
Oh,
time.
Yeah.
me either.
Yeah.
Once Torrid left, I said, I gotta get out of here.
Who?
Torrid.
The clothing store.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Plus size stores. I'm a big girl. I like to go to a store that can got clothes for me. So once they did that, I said, I gotta get up out of here. I ain't coming back. I ain't been back since. So that's how it is.
I love that.
Talk a little bit about just building the business and how has that been, coming from academia, coming from something that's some would argue overly structured into something that is much less so, right? I mean, do you have a preference? Is there, it seems like the industries that you have worked in have been ones that have been, it's an interesting path to track, right? Someone with the sort of a communications and a background and something that is ultimately is very creative and personal, and industries like American Express and Ford and things that are relatively regulated, right?
Yes.
And teaching that is a little bit of both, right? Like the teacher is somewhat of a storyteller, but you are bound in different ways to now a space that is sort of boundless. Mm-hmm. Better, worse, more stressful, more fun?
I think it's probably a combination of all of those, right? And actually it's interesting because I felt when I was at Ford and American Express that I wasn't bound.
Interesting.
Because I felt like if part of my job is sales, and sales is a story.
Sure.
And so it's like, how do I tell you the story to convince you to sign what I need you to sign and do what I need you to do?
Right. Yeah.
And I had gone through a part of life where the word no just flipped and I made it on. So anytime you told me no, I was like, okay, it's on now.
Yeah, right.
And so I think about education like that. I think sometimes when we're in struggle, it's a no. Because people are really struggling. They're not ready to see things differently. They're not ready to embrace things differently. And I'm like, okay, you just triggered my on button. And so I just kind of look at it as it's open. And there are some things now we cannot do that we used to be able to do. But, I'll leave that to the people who get to manage and control it. But in my space, I still feel like I show up as a person who wants people to stretch and grow.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like for them, I'm willing to go down that path with them.
Can you talk a little bit about how in your work you do that now?
Yes. Yeah. I work a lot with teams. I work a lot with individuals and coaching with the goal of being, how do we take you as a leader again and help you see what's going on in your head and how you're showing up. Mm-hmm. And then I work a lot with I ran a 12-week leadership program to walk people through everything from policy to practices. And so that's kind of how I walk into that space now. I really just try to walk in with enthusiasm. And in my own way, I do think a structure, which is saying how you start, I can't have you finish. Like, I really need you to be different when we come to the end of this, because otherwise I didn't do my job. Mm-hmm. So if you show up the same way, I got to go back and reassess what we're doing, because I need you to show some difference in how you show up for people.
Yeah.
Are people born leaders, or is it a skill?
Oh, I love that question.
Sorry.
I actually think that people are born with some competencies.
Okay.
And whether those competencies get developed depends on whether or not they show up as a leader.
Okay.
And since you can keep on working on competencies, I don't know if you're born with competencies, but leadership is a different thing to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I've always thought I think people are born leaders, and if you're not a born leader, it's going to be very hard for you to get ahead. And then so it's like, do you see people who are like, I'm not a leader, I can't do this, I want to progress in my career, but they tell me I need to be a leader.
Yeah.
And like, what do you tell those folks? How do you give, is it about confidence, about courage to these are transferable skills, essentially, right?
Yes.
So, people tell me I'm supposed to be, you need to be a leader first. But I thought I was a leader the whole time. I think people's perspective of what a leader, is very diverse.
Ooh, okay, go. Hold on.
Yes, I agree with you.
Go ahead. Keep pulling that thread.
Somebody has told me that they wanted me to be a leader.
Okay.
And I was like, I thought the thing that I was doing was being a leader. And they were like, no, what we meant is speak up more. I was like, I thought I was going to people and doing this and doing all this work.
Yes.
And I thought doing good work and doing my programs right was making me a leader. But they were like, no, we just need you to speak up. I was like, well, I didn't. And so I think it's people have a different perspective. And and what it means to be a leader is so different for so many different people. Yeah. And so I think it's hard to, teach that when you don't know exactly what people mean.
Yeah. I love that too, because everybody's definition is different, which is the other thing I love. We spend a lot of time asking people to define the words they use.
Yes.
Because people are like, one of my values is respect. Okay. Well, define respect.
Yeah.
Well, your definition might not be my definition. Right?
I hold Aretha's definition.
Give me my problems when I come home.
So speaking up is that person's definition, but you, to your point, you've been living in that.
Yeah, I thought I was elite.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me, I want to stay here for a second because I think that is a particularly sort of primal thing for, I would say, people your age who you're at that point, right? Where like, do you take the leap? Do you like, you know what I'm saying? You're in that spot where like, and I think what's interesting, and I wonder if you found this in your work. I was reading something the other day that was talking about the way that we perceive like career progression, and it's always doing less of the thing that you're good at and just dealing with more people, right? And so I've got one of my closest friends is a like a videographer, like a video editor. If she never had to talk to another person for the rest of her life, right? She would be. She doesn't want to manage anyone. She doesn't want to but is brilliant. And if you say, "Hey, do this like this by this time," she doesn't miss, right? Yeah. But the only way for her to get promoted is to now run a team of people. And she's like, I don't want to do this, and I'm bad at it.
Yes.
And now, not only that, I'm not even also getting to do the thing I like and that I'm good at. Like the thing you evaluated me on that is now putting me in this position is the thing that I'm now not ever
I think
doing.
You're losing the
and now
thing
you're
that you're passionate
evaluating
about
me.
as you
and
grow
now
in a leadership
you're
position.
adjudicating me on a totally different set of skills that one, I don't have and two, I'm not interested in.
Absolutely.
But that's the only way forward. And so it was interesting. There was some British study that was like, this company just created like a side door that was like, if you're an engineer, you can just keep being a good engineer without
that's awesome.
managing all the other engineers.
That's awesome.
And they said from a retention standpoint, it was incredible because you had all these people that were like, oh, thank God. Like I was dreading, right, like having to run meetings. Now I just get to do the stuff that I'm good at, and the people that want to do the song and dance, y'all can do that. Yeah. That was a long-winded way to say, like, do you find that people like over-rotate on like that as an experience of work, right? Of like the only way to be the boss or the only way to ascend in any real level is to start to be in charge of people and stuff instead of the actual doing of the work.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the struggle is that the system is not set up other than what you just described. So you literally force me to sit in a space where I'm not comfortable. But I do think that the thing is sometimes I would encourage people to go sit in that space for no other, you don't have to stay long, for no other reason, just to work on some other competencies.
Yeah,
and skills,
I get
right?
that. Yeah, I agree.
You don't have to stay there because if managing people is not your thing, you do harm to yourself and to those people. Right. And you don't, we should all have the do no harm theory from medicine,
that's right? That's
but
right.
I do think it's important because you learn something about yourself. And for some people, you'll learn that really isn't you. And for other people, you might discover it is you. And you might lead differently and really make a difference. So, but I think the system is not designed to allow us to live in our space of our greatest ability. And we all lean into our strengths, the ones we know of. And interesting enough, they say the more you lean into them, the better you become. And if you're really a good leader, I don't want you to lean into a space that you're not good at. Don't want you to spend a lot of time there. I want you to spend more time in the space you're good so I can get the best out of you.
What is the symptoms and signs of a good leader and a bad leader?
That's a really great question.
Because a bad leader, I don't know. Maybe there's, no bad. If you're a leader, you're probably at this point pretty good, I guess. But I'm always like,
I don't know about that.
I actually think one of the most critical skill sets for a good leader is that they listen. Because I think leaders tend to do a lot of talking because I think they think they're supposed to be doing a lot of talking. So I think listening is critical. I really think doing your work on your own self is important, right? Because again, we're bringing that little baby inside of us and our old behaviors to work, and we're getting triggered or we're responding in ways that might not be the best for us, or they're fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you need to figure out how to do your own work and be curious about yourself. I think you have to have a vision. I think you need to understand your values, all right? And I think you have to be clear about the rules by which, I call them rules of engagement, the rules by which you work and the rules by which a team actually can work together to be more effective. And I think you just have to love people and be passionate about your work, because sometimes you'll be passionate about the work and not the people, and sometimes you'll be passionate about people and can't stand the work.
Yeah.
So you have to find the balance. I think that And I think you have to be honest about where you are at any given time, that this is working or not working for you, and then figure out how to make other decisions. like take a class, stretch yourself, or find some other career or other options.
So, you do a lot of your work with teams. How do you use the time outside of work and, things you're involved in? How do you take a step back for that and care for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Are you a person that says yes to everything?
I'm working on that. Yes, I tend to say yes a lot. Yeah, I do say yes a lot. In my head, it's like, I got time. But I am trying to slow that down because I write poetry and I love writing poetry. I love spending time with young people. So I do some work through my sorority and work with young girls and help them develop and grow. And I know that might seem like
Are you a Delta?
I'm a Delta.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm a Zeta.
Yes, let's do it.
D9, let's get it go.
Is my mom a Delta? I think she is.
Your mom's a Delta,
I think
but you
so.
don't know for sure?
I think she is.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right now.
don't speak on her.
Yeah, Norfolk State. Yeah. She's, there you go.
Look at all that.
That's all right. There we go.
HBCU.
Go ahead, girl.
Figuring it out.
Probably my writing and walking is really high. I probably take care of myself. Yeah. I spend a lot of time trying to walk, get some exercise, and then do a lot of writing.
I want to go back to what you were talking about because I'm really interested in it.
Okay.
You brought it up.
I'm just joking. I don't know what you're talking about. My memory is terrible.
Because I think what would you, let's do this. What would, is what she does something you think would benefit you?
Yeah, I do think it'd be beneficial.
Oh.
Why?
I think that I'm a leader, but I think that corporately there are other ways to be a leader and show people that you're being a leader that I probably could use. Like, how do I make that my skills are beneficial to a company and or place
Yes.
in the ways that I'm not expressing them right now?
Okay.
Yeah. Like, okay, how do I use my skills?
Yeah.
And how do I show the people in charge that, like, these things make me valuable? These things are reasons that I'm a leader.
Yeah.
How do I market myself in a way that makes people understand that I'm a leader?
Yeah. It's
I think
kind of like
still-
branding yourself.
Yes, that's branding.
How do you brand yourself?
Branding,
Yes,
that's it.
Yes. To make sure that people recognize.
Yeah.
It's like answering the question, who are you? And realizing that answer isn't a long story. It's how do you have the 5 words
Yeah.
to help you define you. And you literally, anytime you answer any of those questions, you're repeating those 5 words without repeating those 5 words.
And I actually had a coach. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was she a coach? I don't know if she was a leadership coach or something for work. They gave me a leadership coach for like maybe 8 sessions. And so I met with her. They picked her out and I met with her. And she was, it really was really fun talking to someone else that, wasn't there every day, that like just was listening to me about how things were going, right? Yes. Like, how do I take my stuff to the next level? Yeah. Like, okay, great, you're doing great work, but like, how do you go to the next level with those things? And so it was super cool to talk to her. And so I found it beneficial to talk to people that like are in that space above me, who've done the work, who've been coaching people, and are like, but also it was a good thing. It's like, you need to ask yourself, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Some people just want to progress, and because they're, what else is there to do but sit still? Yes. You can sit still, you can move forward.
That's right.
So do you even want to move forward? Like, maybe the things you're doing you love and enjoy, and maybe you wouldn't even be happy at the next step. Like, that's things that like a person helping me figure out was super helpful in that month that I had session. So like, of course, I think that'd be beneficial.
Well, I think that was part and parcel to the question. Is like, is that even something do you want to do, or is it just the thing that someone in your position should want to do?
That is the question that they was asking me. I think when I was young, my thought was that I have to be the best.
Yes.
And the best is the president. Not of the United States. of the company.
We can use you though.
President. I was like, if I'm gonna get into this field or lane, and our CEO at my company at United Way always talks about this story, is that in my interview, she asked me what would I be doing in 5 years. It was 5 years ago now. I said, well, in 5 years, I see myself with your job.
Oh, yeah, right now. I love it.
Is that true? Did you actually say that?
You've never heard Robbie say that story?
Well, I heard a lot of people say a bunch of stuff, but I never actually asked you if that was true.
That actually happened. I didn't want her to. I told her not to tell the story anymore. She was going around telling, after she was going around telling the story to everybody. This the girl who said she finna take my job.
I love
that
it.
really happened. But you know what's funny? When you're
That
young,
makes you a
I was probably like 22 when that happened, when I first started.
Okay.
5 years ago. And I was like...
You get old and grizzled in that.
And I remember saying it. I remember saying it, but my thought is, in interviews, you got to stand... Like, I think at that point, I thought I was really good at interviews. I was like, oh, I'm going to get her with this one. Oh, what should I do? I'm gonna have your job, so like
You start talking crazy.
But once you get into it, you're like, dang, I don't know. You start understanding what she does and the work she does and how important it is to the organization. You're like, actually,
maybe not.
Maybe I gotta stay. But I've done a lot of jumps. I've done a lot of jumps.
Sure.
I'm the biggest jumper at my job. So am I doing that because that's what I want to do, or is because that's what people are supposed to do? Yeah. So that's what I'm battling with every day, every quarter, every day.
I love that, though, because I think that level of confidence is required. Whether you do that or not, the fact that you tell yourself that means you're confident enough to move to that space.
I don't know why I said it.
Well, I think it's an interesting... I mean, it's
I don't know why I said it. I knew I couldn't be hurt by it. I don't know why I said it. I didn't know. Maybe.
Look, there's an interesting, I think, sort of glorification of people at the top without any real understanding of the work they're doing or not doing.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's what was happening.
Right? I mean, it's just one of those things, right? And
Title.
I've seen it from both sides. And I think it's really interesting of just like, there's a great many people in those positions who are wildly underqualified for that.
Many people.
Right? I mean,
we got people at the very top unqualified for the job.
And you sit down with some of these people in some of these rooms and you're like, huh.
I think that job.
That's happened. I've been in a room with somebody like, ooh. Oh, this the person at the top?
I've been in rooms with entrepreneurs, and I'm like, where'd you get the money?
Yeah, sure.
You have been very fortunate.
Somebody greenlit this.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
But I think it's good. I think it's good to see that, like, you're not beneath them in a way that means, like, less or are less talented. It's sometimes like you get into a room and these people are great. And you're like, oh, I can hold my own with those people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's beneficial for people who want to be leaders and to be in positions, to be in the rooms with other leaders so that they don't feel like, oh, I don't have these things, I can't do this thing. But you get there, you're like, oh, I have ideas. I think that's what I've learned. Like, I go into a room like, oh, I have ideas too. I don't have to be afraid to like say what I'm feeling.
Absolutely.
And that, just because they have a title that's higher than mine, or I'm in a community engagement meeting, like, that's been super helpful for just being in the room and getting to hear other people's ideas. Like, oh, well, I had that idea too. So, oh, look, we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So that's been super helpful.
Yeah.
We're all just people.
Yeah. What do you say to people who are, who don't want to do that? Right? I mean, I think just very plainly. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people, or whole class of people that like, it's not that I'm incapable. Like, I just don't want to. Right?
So
it's just
valid.
like it's just a different level of nonsense. I don't want to go to meetings. I don't want people writing stuff about me. I don't want people. You're right. Like, that's not what I want.
Yes.
What is your advice there? Again, given the zeitgeist that we understand, which is like much of your professional development is tied to that relatively single entry ladder.
Yeah. I think it's real interesting because, again, I go back to this thing about developing competencies. I think there are certain things that if you say you don't want to do enough of, you probably should run your own business.
Okay.
Seriously. Okay. Right? Because I think you have X'd out of so much that makes you part of the team that you might need to consider this is a better space for me.
Interesting.
I also do think that there are opportunities for people to stay in their roles longer because if you think about it, organizations are flattening. There's not as much opportunity to shift and move. And there are some people who love being at the top who don't want someone to tell them, I want your job in 5 years.
Sure.
So they're glad you're sitting there. So I do think that you have to consider what is best for you in terms of, is this space I'm even in the best space for me? So should I start my own business? Or what is it that I can do and want to do that I can still contribute and feel valid in this space? And how am I going to continue to grow? Even if I don't grow up, I grow, depth and breadth, if nothing else.
Because I wonder, how do people look at people who stay in the same role for 10 years? Like, you didn't ask for a promotion. We give you your cost of living bonus every year. But it's like, I'm okay with doing this thing. I feel like people look at you negatively if you don't want to corporate
100%.
climb.
Yes, they do.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But that's not
Lack
fair.
of ambition,
Yes.
lack of da-da-da. And it gets harder as you get older because you start prioritizing other stuff. People have
Absolutely.
families, people have geographical considerations, people have other stuff. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, we sort of have deified the climbers.
That's very true.
That's very true.
To a way that I think is probably detrimental, and I would say to younger people, right? Because there's this sort of, if you match that with sort of the media environment, with this sort of instant gratification thing, people have a hard time understanding, like, how time works.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, I so agree.
People are like, I worked here for 6 months. I was like, you can't even you're still getting locked out of your email. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you
Your
don't know.
card just worked.
I was talking to somebody the other day, someone's probably a little younger than you, like early 20s, something like that. And they were,
That's, okay.
right, what, 27?
I'm 28.
28, yeah. So
Yeah.
they were 23,
Beautiful
24.
Yeah.
But had that, you could tell they were like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And da-da-da. And I was like, you haven't done anything yet. You haven't done anything.
Hey, stop!
What's your competency?
But like truly, like, yeah. And like, I'm not even trying to be mean to you. Like, you don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, just because you're like better at Excel than your grandparents, like you're not good at anything.
I take
you know?
Excel functions very serious. I think that's a huge skill.
Oh, I'm great at Excel. That was part of an interview. I had to do Excel stuff in a room of like 4 people.
oh my
Oh
god.
my goodness.
Yeah.
They are
That
putting
was
you to the
crazy.
test.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was a good test.
Yeah.
But I do think young people think that because they can do things that older people can't do, they should be promoted super fast. Like, oh, I have to listen to a boss who can't do Excel.
Yeah.
It's hard for
It
them.
is hard to
It's
take
hard
orders
for
from someone who can't
Like, you
convert a
did not-
PowerPoint. No.
But isn't it interesting? Because even when you think about it, we don't, when we bring people in, actually tell them what it means to be a member of a team.
Okay.
And so the fact that you have great skills at this thing doesn't mean somebody else who's older doesn't also have the skill. And we don't match people up.
Yeah.
To talk about, you may have Excel, but I've been here for a bit and I know how to use your Excel.
I got a profile of donors that give us $1 billion.
Right, you're right.
So do we need to? I know, maybe we do need the Excel. Do we need your Excel? We do.
We do.
But do you have a portfolio of $1 billion donors? You don't.
we can put on the Excel spreadsheet.
You're like, and I know how hard it is because I have been there as a young person, being like, I have to listen to somebody who doesn't know how to do Excel. Like, you don't even know how to do a computer. Like, I should be your job. Like, it's hard to get over that because you're like, I have skills you don't have, and I should be at the top. But it's like,
true.
oh, you have skills I don't have, and that's why I'm at the bottom.
I call it bridging the generations
Yes,
gap. Right?
yes, it's super
I think,
hard.
And I think the other thing is that we also make assumptions because, during COVID, there were a whole lot of young people who you've discovered didn't have access to technology.
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
assume that everybody young,
Yes,
right?
they're
And
not good at it
and they're-
either.
and they're not
Right.
always good at it. So
Right.
I think that's our great opportunity to kind of bridge a gap with people to get to almost to what you were saying as well. How do you level that out? So I can tell you, being young means you have some great skills that you can bring in. That doesn't mean you necessarily are going to be president tomorrow. However, being a leader is still internal. How do you show up as a great leader with this much skill or a lot of skill? Either way you go. Right?
How do you do that
Fake
as
it
the
till you make
zeitgeist
it.
changes, right? I mean, I think a lot changed even I mean, we can hold the COVID thing aside just because that was weird for everyone. But I mean, even the experience of work has changed a lot in the last 15 years, right? You go from like office jobs to now we're in this weird like, we're going to come back to work. Maybe
Hybrid
we're
thing.
not, but we prove we don't really have to, but everyone kind of wants you to, right? So like, has that changed the nature of your work or just the nature of how you think about, so let's say that you've got someone who's in some leadership role at the company. How much of your work is like helping them facilitate what they want? And how much of it is you being like, you're looking at this the wrong way, right?
Yeah, I that's a really good question too. It's a combination of the two because I asked them to look at. I try not to put too much of myself on there because then I feel like I'm interjecting my own thing. But they have to look at what they've been asked to do and their goals. And then they have to look at, do they have the skills and the competencies to do this? And do they want to do it, to the point you made earlier? Because we have leaders who want to just do their work. Like if you're a doctor or something, you just want to be a doctor. You don't necessarily want a nurse. You don't want to run a whole unit,
clinic,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but you have the job. How much of who you are can we focus on and bring the positive to that? And then how much can we just be honest and say, hey, team, this is not really what I'm good at. Is there somebody else in here who's really good at this so I can let go of this and focus on the thing I'm good at and maybe grow you in the process in an area I'm not good at? And I think when people are honest like that, you'd be amazed how much better teams function. But it's when we try to pretend like we are all things all the time that gives us stress. And so I find myself talking to people about how do you show up as your most authentic self in very difficult spaces and places that you function in.
If you're just hopping in, this is Envision Radio from the United Way of Greater Charlottesville and City of Promise, News Radio 98.9, 1070 AM WINA. Price Markey, Lisa Harris here in the studio, and a big shout out to our friends at the Jefferson School Foundation. You're a media person. What is your sort of take on the media landscape, right? And just sort of this, let's call it the democratization of information. I think that, again, you trace your early history from sort of like what was news. Yeah. Right, we've now moved through this internet era, and we're into sort of a whole different thing. Do you find in your job? I was talking to a physician friend of mine, and she was like, "Look, the beauty of having a lot of information is you have access to information." But she goes, "Do you remember when we thought that people were dumb because they didn't have enough information?" She was like, "It wasn't that." Yeah. She's like, "The amount of arguments I have to have with people about like medical treatment that you found on the internet." And I went to medical school, right? So do you find some of that? Do you find that like is some of your work trying to like sort of deconstruct like whatever someone else's version of this is? Yeah, because it's what they saw or what they put together or what they've sort of amalgamated from the ether? Yeah,
I love that too, because I just taught a class and it was on generations. And the person in the classroom said to me, I don't know if I agree with anything that you said because I read such and such, right? Sure. And I know they went on to tell a story about African Americans and all this stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, where did you get that? Like I couldn't say where did you get that information. Sure. But I said, well, my information is Pew and Gallup. Where did yours come?
Right. Not Pew and Gallup. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So I agree. And on one hand, you appreciate that people are enthusiastic and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then they also have to be open to the fact that maybe their information is not correct and or maybe they haven't done as much research as they need to. I also say that there are times when people, again, I'm a learner. So if you bring me something, I'm always open to go learn it. But in the middle of a session in a class, we have to manage what that looks like because then you go off on tangents and people are now disengaged. So I agree with what you're saying. It's, a lot of information sometimes is too much information and everybody's an expert.
Right. Well, we build these archetypes. I mean, we're seeing this now to some degree of us, particularly like, young men have sort of built their entire personality on like podcast bros, right? Without any real link to reality or competence or anything, right? And so, I mean, I wonder is that something that you find in a media environment that's relatively unregulated, right? And there's a lot of good. I fixed my lawnmower because I found stuff on Reddit. You know what I'm saying? So like there is that side of it too, but I think there's sort of this interesting, much different coming of age story for a lot of people that it's much less experiential and much more just kind of like piecemealed by like not entirely authentic versions of things, right? I think it's the kind of thing that like even coming up with me, it was like the people I modeled myself after, I like had to watch them do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't just get the highlights. I like watched it happen. I watched it not happen. I watched it go wrong and go right and da-da-da. Yeah. And we said, okay, we'll do that. We'll not do that. But now we have this sort of highlight reel philosophy where it's like you're cherry picking stuff.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I wonder if people show up to you and you're like, that's not a real thing. Like that's not, people don't do that. No one acts like that.
I think the other point to that is that I do think people do that. They take segments of things and they're like, no, this is my reality.
Yeah.
And because that's my reality. But I also think that the struggle is because we stopped teaching people how to be analytical.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Right.
That's
and so because you don't have analytical skills, then you don't have the ability to think about what you're doing, kind of assess it, go get other information, double check it, go back. In my time, there used to be an Encyclopedia Britannica on the wall, right?
Sure.
But it was very stagnant because if you bought that year, then 5 years from now, it was old.
And they were all like alphabetical too. Like I was missing a G for a while.
Right,
I was like, I'm not learning anything about Greece.
There you go. But I think that's part of it is that because I'm not analytical and I keep being fed things, then those are the things that mean that has to be my truth. And we don't teach people not only how to be analytical, but we don't talk about what it means to research it. What does it mean if you're wrong? And how do you handle being wrong? Right? And because analytical means we can both have a discussion and debate. And what if something I have is not complete information? So when you share it with me, how do I receive it
Sure.
and then incorporate it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, to me, when I think of that, I think that's about a skill set that we are not focusing on. So therefore now, give me the snippets, because I don't have the attention span either to want to sit through
Yeah, that's right.
a 4-hour thing, right? So I think that these are the skills, and I think might sound very old school, but when people sat at a table and you sat down and you listened, your child got to talk, the adult got to share, like you just said, you got
Sure.
to role model it. I think you can have today's technology and you can have a table,
Yeah. Right.
and I think both of them help.
Is there a reason or any inclination from you to do this with kids?
Leadership training and so forth.
Like to start younger and younger. I mean, it's is that even valuable, right? I mean, there's this obvious kind of skill acquisition thing that I'm sure it is at some level, but it's also like if you're not, if you don't need it, we don't need to teach kids to be pilots just in case they might fly a plane one day, right? So like, how do you feel about that? And is there sort of a line of demarcation whereby you're like, no, actually this should become sort of more curricular for kids?
I do think
maybe
that's
less
correct.
mitochondria and more leadership training. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I know. I think the younger, the better. And I think if anything we can design that keeps, that supports a parent's role in developing their child as a leader, I think is really important. Probably the youngest group, I talked to a bunch of African-American males who are probably somewhere between age 8 and 12.
Okay.
And that was about branding and the importance of branding, because now you're going to move toward high school and, what does courage look like? So I think it's really important to start young. And I think it's also important to help give people an image or a person. So along with your family, find someone from history. I think teaching history is a really important thing across all history. What do I need to learn from this group's history and somebody else's history, so that I'm also incorporating that as part of my journey? It also humbles me in many ways, right? And it makes me more open. So yeah, I do think that's really important to start young.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do that now with the young gems that we work with for the sororities. They're still grammar school age.
Okay.
And some are a little older, but that I think is a really ripe age, and hopefully they're more open to receive it.
Right.
I had one more question for you about the two quotes in your bio about Audre Lorde and Nelson Mandela. I'd love to hear what they mean to you as we close out.
Yeah.
And I can read them too.
Yeah, please don't read them. I think it helps. It helps.
Okay.
She got skimmed. This quoted the Bible once. She's not even taking another shot.
Okay, the quote from Nelson Mandela is, "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world." And your second favorite quote is about Audre Lorde. "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid."
Yeah,
They seem powerful.
I love Nelson Mandela's quote, primarily because I'm in this space of education. I think we're all in the space of education. Your title might not say it, but all of us are in the space of education. And because we have a responsibility to go do our work, to read, to learn, also to get things wrong, like the John 15 time, and then to come back, right? I think we are all responsible for changing the world. And you do that best when you have taken the time to learn, when you've taken time to ask questions, when you've taken the time to struggle within yourself and then to struggle with other people who are on a journey with you. So I do think we can change the world through education, and for everybody to realize that they're responsible for education. And the Audre Lorde part, I think, just keeps me motivated, because not every space we show up in is an easy space to be. Some spaces are harder than others, but in some way, I feel like as I journey through, God has given me hard spaces, and then He's given me spaces, I won't call them easy, but they've been less challenging, right? And so it's like, as long as I show up as my best authentic self, even if I'm challenging other people, the point is I'm challenging myself too, and as a result of that, I'm doing my best work, and I hope it makes a difference and moves people forward no matter what we're doing together.
I feel like I've moved forward just from this little interview with you. So if no one else can thank you because we're on the radio and no one else is here, I thank you for the work that you're doing for people who look like me and people all over the Charlottesville.
My
So
joy.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
And we're super excited for having you. If people want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do, how can they get in contact with you?
You can actually find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Lisa Harris, and it's the traditional LinkedIn thing, and then LA Harris 17 to find me on LinkedIn. And my website is actually being updated, but it is www.daretobearfruit.com. Right. And you can email me, and send me a message through that site. And that would be the best way to reach me. So I'm always open, and if I can help or support anyone, I'm glad to do it.
You click-clacking over there.
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm finding her on LinkedIn. I'm finding her on LinkedIn. I see you right here. Boop.
Listen, I'm going to cut your mic off. If you guys have ideas for the show or want to get in touch with us, make sure you follow us on social media on all platforms at United Way Seville, at City of Promise, or drop us a note and vision at UnitedWaySeville.org. We get support on the show from our friends at the United Way and at City of Promise, and of course, folks, the Jefferson School Foundation, the proud owner of the Jefferson School City Center. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform for new episodes every week. And of course, best way to continue to support our community is if you got time, talent, or treasure, send it to City of Promise, United Way, or any of our other wonderful local nonprofits. That's how we keep doing our work. And of course, this show. For Mark and Lisa, see you next week.
Bye.